coffee break with Jimmy, and well, I guess the Supreme Court on Wednesday is finally going to hear about birthright citizenship. We spoke about this, it was about 2 months ago. I did a podcast on it. You guys really, I got a lot of comments. Probably the most comments that I ever got was about that. So please subscribe, press the like button, and share, and also hit that notification bell so next time I'm on. Anyway, this birthright citizenship, it's finally coming to the Supreme Court, and they say they hope to get the 5 votes to to get the birthright citizenship right. I mean, according to the 14th Amendment, when it was designed to do, and it was designed to protect the birthright of the black people who were born here, and it was to protect them because they were born here. That makes them citizens. Well, it also happened as time went on, the late 1800s, early 1900s. I know my grandparents came over here. They came over here legally. They had a job, they had a sponsor, and a lot of time they started their own business. In fact, both of my grandparents did start their own business. And so all my mother, my father, their brothers and sisters, they were all born here. And so because they were here legally, and they weren't citizens yet, full-blown citizens, but they were here legal. They were legal citizens here, but they weren't American citizens yet. They hadn't taken no tests. They haven't gone through that process yet. But they paid taxes. They did everything like everybody else did. They worked hard. They did the whole 9 yards. But then their kids were born here. So those kids that were born here, I mean, if that doesn't make them legal, that means I'm not legal. And I would say relegate 90% of America isn't legal, because a lot of people did come over here, the 1500s. I mean, not 1500, but the 1800s, and they came from other countries, and they came here and established themselves. My grandfather, Sousa, he actually became legal after I was 2 years old when he became a citizen. Now, my grandfather, Teixeira, he was a citizen prior to that. But still, the birthright citizenship is now going to become before the Supreme Court now, and they're going to see how they're going to weigh in on this. But it's not like, okay, a lot of people would think, and it got to be where this was the idea, that if a woman was pregnant and she came across the border and she had the baby here, well, then that made that baby automatically an American citizen. That was birthright citizenship. That's the way some people understood it. That wasn't the case. That wasn't the purpose of the birthright citizenship. That wasn't the purpose of it. Okay? You couldn't just come across here, a woman was pregnant, she had a baby, that baby was automatic. No, because they came here illegally. That woman did. Now, if that woman came here legally, her and her husband, they had established themselves, they worked, they paid taxes, they did everything else that every other citizen here did. They just weren't legal American citizens yet. Now, there was a process for them to go through that. They just hadn't done it yet. And in a lot of cases back in the early 1900s, the 1800s, this kind of process was what went through. So that's where they're having this debate on this birthright citizenship. And like I said, you guys commented pretty heavily on my last podcast that I did on this. This has been a couple of months ago that I did this, and it was really informative. I told the story about my Uncle Joe when he came over, and his parents came over here. They established themselves. They worked, and then his brothers and sisters were born here. He was 2 years old. They moved back to the Azores, and then when he was 18 years old, then he moved back to America, and that was what he did. So, but because he was born here and his parents were here legally, that made him a citizen. Okay. Now, so that's going to go before the Supreme Court on Wednesday, I believe. Now, I talked the other day. Well, I was going to, but I didn't. But America was developed by Judeo-Christian values, and And that's our country. That's what it was based on. And because that's what it was based on, that's, the colonies when they came here, people that come here from other countries, they believe in Christ, and but there's some that don't believe in Christ. They believe in Allah, or that's to us, that's not what we believe in. Most of us, not America, not Judeo-Christian values. That's why on the dollar bill, every bill says, "In God we trust." Okay. Now, so let's get back to that, okay? And you look at Ilhan Omar. She's a Muslim. She got elected to the House of Representatives, and her constituency, the people that she represents, ripped us off for $19 billion. I mean, now how does that happen? They come over here from Somalia, and they go through the process that we have here, apparently, and they buck the system, or they work the system in their favor, and they ripped us off for, like I said, $19 billion. Now we got to stop that. We got to stop the fraud. That was just in Minnesota. The fraud in California is probably twice as much, or better. And we've talked about that at length. So we've got to stop the fraud. But we got to get back to believing that. I've talked about in the past where when you start school, they start indoctrinating you into the Democratic Party, believing the liberal way, and it's a slow process. It goes over the course of time, but because we're kind of controlled by the teachers' union, okay, even the nurses' union have a lot to do with what's the control in California, the teachers' union and the nurses' union, but they have a lot to say about that, okay, and it's not necessarily right, okay, but they indoctrinate us at a young age. And the old adage, if you're 30 years old and you're a Republican, well, then you got no heart. And if you're 35 years old and you're a Democrat, you got no brains. Because the transition between Democrat and Republican, liberal to conservative, it starts to transition around that period, mid-30s, 40s. You start realizing that you are, in fact, a conservative because the way that you work, you go to work every day, and this is what you do. You pay your bills, you pay your taxes, and so on and so forth. And that's the way we conduct business. And that's the way it's starting. And even today, I think there are more conservatives here than there ever has been before. But we have to keep the MAGA movement. I mean, I know right now in Iran, I don't know if there were some things they didn't anticipate. Maybe there was, and of course there was. There's always things you don't anticipate that you find out differently after you get started. But we took care of Iran. We've got complete air superiority. We knocked out their navy. They apparently they can't bomb the Strait of Hormuz. And because it's not just oil, but fertilizer. A lot of fertilizer comes through that area there, and that's affecting our farmers here. I didn't realize that until I heard that just the other day. So we got to get the Strait of Hormuz opened up. So right now, apparently, there's 3,500 either there already or on their way. 3,500 troops on their way there. They got a couple thousand Marines on their way, and I guess the 82nd Airborne is on their way also. And because they're going to have boots on the ground to curtail their army there, to stop them from killing their own people like they've done before. I mean, here just a few months ago, they killed, 32,000 people that they murdered because they were protesting? That's the way the Iranian leadership is there. So we can't have that kind of leadership there again. The people of Iran have got to run it, okay, and they will, and they'll get it back. They'll get their own democracy there. They'll work out their what they have to do for their country, and I think they'll get it right. But in the meantime, we do have to have boots on the ground. I believe I said that before. That I think we have to have boots on the ground to make it happen. So anyhow, the Marines and the 82nd Airborne are en route, okay? The 82nd Airborne is the Army. And so they're en route there to take care of business over there in Iran. They're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. The oil is going to flow. All the what is it for the farmers? They're I just said it. I said it. They're oh doggone. Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. Everything's going to be flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to be their fertilizer. Son of a gun. Sorry about that, folks. Their fertilizer. They're being held up. A lot of fertilizer comes to the Strait of Hormuz, and that comes here to the United States and other countries. So all that stuff is going to be back on track. But I'm excited to see what they're going to do at the Supreme Court. That's going to be on Wednesday. That's just in a couple of days. They're going to hear the birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment to make sure that people understand, and I hope they make it clear. I know there's a line to be drawn there. People that are here legally, that have been here legally for some period of time, their kids are born here. Those kids, those children, should have birthright citizenship. Okay, if these people are here legally, and they've established themselves, they've been working, paying tax like everybody else, they should have some sort of citizenship. Maybe not complete citizenship, but they should have some sort of citizenship that's going to fall on them. Okay, but the ones that just come over, they're illegal, and then they have children here. Well, those kids aren't legal. Okay, and that's all going to be documented, so we'll know which ones are which. So we'll see how the Supreme Court weighs in on this. But please really comment on this. I got a lot of comments on the last time I talked about birthright citizenship. And we got to get everything back to the Judeo-Christian value. That's what we were built upon. That's what this country was built upon. And we got to go back to that. We can't let the Quran and Sharia law take place here in the United States. That doesn't work here. Sharia law does not work in the United States. And I don't care about Dearborn, Michigan. Another, you've heard about that. When they actually stop the city shuts down, and they have their prayer where they'll pray to the Quran. I'm pretty sure it's Dearborn, Michigan. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But there's other cities, there's other places in the United States that actually work that way. That's not the United States. That's not what we're built upon. And we've got to get back to what the United States is all about. Okay? So anyway, this is Coffee Break with Jimmy. Please subscribe, press like and share, and hit that notification bell so next time I'm on, I'll get to see you. Thank you very much.